Throughout the years, there have been many events where he came to me and it seemed like he was going to drop the body. And he would communicate something at that time of how to continue or what was next for me and what was going to occur. But most of those times, that event, the dropping of the body, didn't happen. There was one, and I think this was actually before the divine emergence. I'm not quite sure. I have to look it up, but in which, in fact, I think it was the earlier years actually, and he was, I probably at that point having already exhausted the way he was teaching, because I think once he became Baba and started teaching and bonding to people in that way, it was a matter of just a couple of years with it seemed like that way of working would be difficult, dangerous, and impossible to continue as a way of bringing people to enlightenment. So it was a phase. And during that time, I had a dream event. And when I say dream event, it's actually something that's beyond just your brain churning out something. It's actually a connection to the sacred, revealing what the process or the relationship or what's going on really beyond just the karmic patterning of people. And at that time, I had a dream that he was giving darshan, and there was no scenery. It was just a white light location. And people were there, and they were all standing in line waiting to receive his darshan. But at that time, when the line was moving along, and I was almost to the top of the line, there was a big announcement that he had dropped the body, that the body was not animated anymore. And everybody left. So in a way, it's a little bit like his Dawn Horse dream where, everybody was waiting for the manifestation and working on that manifestation. And then when it started appearing, everybody left, except him. And so everybody left, and I decided, why would I leave? Where is there go? I have to see him and be with him. So I went to, everybody left. I was just there, and he was, his body was on a divan, and it appeared he was not animated. And I just gazed at him, and he just opened his eyes and looked at me and transmitted that to me that, the continuity of our relationship and of this realization was forever continuous. It was not the dropping of, so I think that was a prelude to the official dropping of the body, but also the divine emergence events and the other event where he totally translated, in 2000. And so I think that was like a continuous message throughout our relationship, and it started very earlier on. The relationship was, he always, in my earlier years, I was very drawn to spirituality and to meditation, and he would appear immediately in the internal dimension to begin to escort me to that discovery process. And he brought me on a lot of different adventures and different spiritual processes that were quite intense and dramatic. But as I tell people, that part of the process of returning to myself, after having bond to the vehicle, returning to my true self, was actually such a welcoming that I was always asking him to push me harder and to allow it to fulfill itself. And he was very intense about it and would abandon me to it. But at the same time, he would always kind of worry if he had pushed me too hard into it. So that was part of, always he was with me. And I think even when I was younger, he was with me, but I didn't know of him as you would come across him as the body-mind representation of him. And I think when I was younger, I just knew him as, I didn't use the term the bright, but the light, it was the light. And I always felt a very intense relationship to, brightness, to the light. And that continued to be part of my collaboration and work and process with him. And after he dropped the body, before he dropped the body, he came to me and began to set up the next phase of my life. And I was, strangely enough, doing pictures and collaging with his image. And they all had this strange kind of, and this was just days before his death, a kind of disembodiment, like he wasn't in the body anymore. But I was, and I think you look at a lot of my collages, I was representing a standing beside and yet behind. You know, like I say, I'm the tailwind of the work and the collaboration and the process. And I would be standing aside. And then and sometimes I always depict to make the collage even, two of me, so I'd be standing on both sides. And during that time, I did a couple of collages of him with me in it, and I hadn't done any collages like that. Primarily before that point, a lot of my work was with working with my connection and relationship to the Earth as consciousness. And so then I began doing that, and then when he dropped the body, right before he dropped the body, after I'd finished those collages, he asked me to prostrate to his picture, which I did, and then I saw him come and pass his staff through, on top of my body. So that was another continuation of that collaboration and mutual work and recognition of each other that the earlier dream was, which I told you about earlier. So that was also part of that, and I just had this. I knew, that meant something like the first other dreams I had, that perhaps he was really going to drop his body. And then I think it was the next day, the next morning, I get the phone call that he had dropped the body. And since that period, he's initiated that collaboration and that work for me to be the tailwind and for me to continue to feel and enjoy. The part that's different than the early part is now he wants me to enjoy his love for me, which before I was always working and collaborating with bonding to the ego and doing that work alongside what he was doing with it and being cooperative in that way and creating my own circle to do that work. So after he dropped the body, there was more of that. He wanted me to feel his love, and he since then has created and shown me different dreams and experiences and feelings, and even has appeared to me to show me that. And I can assure everybody he is not bound to any ego, but yet he loves your love, and he loves to move that love deeper. So that work is always ongoing, but he's not here to bond to anyone, whether he does not have a body, mind, or embodied in that way. But the work he's come to do, he did do. It's here, it's happening. The seed of the ego has been burned up, and so the opportunity for everyone to move into that relationship with the sacred, who he is completely an ongoing availability. It's happening, even though it doesn't seem like it is. But if you actually have a moment where you have the grace to drop your ego, to stop seeking, you'll see it's like completely obvious and completely going on all the time. But people have to come to that, and they come to it, So there's a lot I can say about the relationship, and it's ongoing, and there's going to be more surprises in it and more support for people to awaken in this story, that the story is not devoid of his love and collaboration for me, as it is not devoid of his love and need for your love and your stories. It's just that I have realized who he is, and so the love is continuously. Nothing can happen to it. So nothing can create a damage to it. And at this point, and the continuousness of this point is that he wants me to actually enjoy his love for me, because all the early years of the work, I didn't get to enjoy it. I just got to work really hard, get in line, work really hard, work with my circle, work with the work he gave me, and it was a lot of intense bonding to what the self-contraction is here, what it's about, and why is everyone so believing in these assumption, in the assumption of separation? Why is the sacred so in doubt? Why is the separate one trying to get fulfilled? Who is that separate one? And as you realize there's no separate one. So the game that everyone's playing to get fulfilled is a separate one. Can never bear any fruit. You can do anything at any time. Think you're clever, think you're smart, think you're lucky. It's not going to bear any fruit at any time, because there simply is no separate one. There is only the divine being, who he is, and he's come to show that he's not a separate guy. He is the heart that you are. And to realize that has to begin with two things. And you know what those things are, which is you're despairing of searching for happiness. And you have a intuition and faith or spark towards what's true, the true being. And you've come across, well, I don't think you come across it. He brings it to you, and you bump into it, and either you go, huh? It bypasses your ego brain and your ego motives, and you go, huh? What was that? So that's what happens for everyone in that way. That is a wonderful story, because that took place in the physical, where we went, and this is a wonderful part of my relationship to the earth. The earth is always communicating and working with this conscious realization, is so supportive of it, and is so, at times I said, the earth is my devotee and my only devotee, and everybody else is Adi Da's devotee, And we went to Mount Tam, and over the earlier years, when I was bonding to people, I had initiated several students there, and so I went over there, and I think about 3 years ago, I had brought my daughter and my granddaughter there and showed them the spot too, and had taken some pictures and done some collages with it, and to go there again was a remarkable event. And when we got there, I sat down, and he wanted me to remember everything, the history of the place and what happened. So I was remembering it, and I was thinking of that day and the people and how many times I'd come in the earlier years. And I actually, when I was 18, had gone there first, when I had come to California. And what that place was, and what it was linked to, and what you can access there, and what happened there. And to remember all that, he said, remember more and more. And as I was remembering the different events and occasions and people that I brought there, he asked me, well, what happened to those people? Where are those people? What are they doing? And I said, well, some I know, some I don't know. And he said, but what about you? And I said, well, I just say the same. I'm just with you. And then he just kind of smiled at that. And I said, this is going somewhere. And then, sure enough, I remembered and recalled every event, and I saw that whoever I bonded to and whoever I tried to show this true understanding to, whatever happened to them, wherever they went, whatever they did, however they were touched, however much they could receive it and how much they couldn't receive it, that nothing had been changed, that it had always just been me and him. So he's showing me, in other words, all that work, I wasn't bonded to that work or to those people or to the situation, that I was always just bonded to him. And then I sat there and I just kind of laughed, and I said, well, that's the way it's really been. And I just felt happy that he brought me there to just to really be happy with that, to remember that and be happy with that. And we were looking out the ocean, and the grasses were all green and flowers everywhere, and it was just like a beautiful place. And the tree is just a very simple tree, and it's just like it has an arm, just like kind of pointing out gracefully. And I remember we even had put up a sign there that said, "Waking Woman of the Heart," there. And so at the end, and as we're just about ready to get up and walk back, he said, I'm going to always show you my love now. This is the next part of your life. And I was just totally like surprised and happy that would be how I would live and work the rest of my life, would be in the feeling of his love for me. So that was, I know, I was very, very happy. And to this day, no matter how I identify with people or bond to them to help them, all that kind of just sloughs off, and I always go back and always feel, and I don't want to be, I want to do that work because he's interested in all that. He's interested in all of you, and getting this work done for him, and collaborating with the Free Das people, and see that we're all this one family, and we all are his, And yet we've all been given different kind of lives and different kind of faces and ways to do that and live that. So since that time, there's always been that feeling that of his love for me, and it's been wonderful. And whenever, like when you guys get struggling, or the world seems terrible, or something seems just kind of dark, I can always feel that and bring that to you, and you can feel that and learn and grow beyond that darkness that sometimes is what this world is like. This is a dream I had on my birthday of 2013. About 3 a.m., a beautiful experience arose. It was in shadow and conscious light. I was appearing in a vehicle, a car. James was in the front with another devotee. It appeared that we were in the night and were driving along. I began to perceive Adi Da's form next to me. He asked me to remember my samadhi-like dreams. As he said this, I began to talk about how the light would appear to me, and that I would become it as I walked into it. As I was describing this, it would actually happen, but Adi Da maintained his form link with my form link, so my form appeared to dissolve or be the light, yet I was also with his form describing it. Yes, yes, she is the light, has always been the light. She is my beloved one. As he said these beautiful words, I felt his arm around my waist. I felt his most beautiful love, and felt my love for him was everything as well. This experience was most brilliant, most bright, and most intensely loving. As much as Adi Da and I were enjoying the sublime experience, we were intentionally describing it to my two devotees so they could feel and experience the bright as conscious light they did.